Hello and welcome to part 2 of me working on my recently purchased Golf GTI. Now this vehicle currently has 259,000 kilometers on it and it needs a major service overhaul. So in the last episode I replaced the timing chain. It was a bit short and sweet, but you probably got the point. In this episode I'm going to be addressing a major oil leak. Now you're probably just thinking, oh Nathan, that's nothing, Volkswagens leak oil all the time. However, this one is a pretty major oil leak and I know exactly where it's coming from. So underneath the car here, that's the engine over there. This is the transmission. The oil leak is coming here, right between the engine and the transmission. So that leads me to believe that the ring seal has either failed or is on the verge of extreme failure, considering how much oil leaks out on a given day. So let's not waste any time. Let's get this transmission off so that way I can address the issue of the oil leak. I apologize for the bad lighting, but this is where I am so far. So I've removed the battery housing here and also the air intake housing as well. That's all gone. So now I have access here. So as you can see, I've already disconnected the cables. So now it's just time to take off the bolts holding that bracket into the bell housing here of the transmission, and then just do some other things. And yeah, we can continue onwards. So I was just removing the left fender liner here, and look what I noticed. That is just a bunch of mud. Years, I'd imagine, just caked in there and rusting away here at the fender. You can see right down here and even the bottom part. Yeah, that's not good. Anyways, I'll clear that out, but then I'll get back to removing the transmission. Hello, you've joined me the following morning, and as you can see in the background, I have a bridge support to hold up the engine because we're pretty much almost at the phase where I'm ready to take out the transmission. So as I mentioned before, everything is pretty much disconnected. I have the cables here, those are disconnected, and I have the top bolts here for the transmission also taken out. So the one for the starter and then the two over to the right hand side. And I've also taken off this hose here from the manifold that ran along the front here, so that gives me a bit more space down below for the transmission removal. So the next thing I'm going to do is remove the axles. So I'm going to remove the bolts right here holding in this side, and then all the little bolts holding in on the transmission side from either side of the vehicle. I also remove these three nuts at the bottom end of the lower control arm holding in the ball joint, so that way I can get the CV axles out on either side. Surprisingly, the Germans actually made something easy for once. Okay, axles removed on this side and on this side. So I'm just going to finish removing the starter here, and then I'll get to taking out these bolts holding in the bottom here, as well as the transmission mount on this side, and I think we're almost there. So the transmission bolts have all been removed, and I have the transmission jack here. Now this is just more to help me ease it down rather than just struggle and crush myself like I've done in the past. So we'll see how it goes. And as you can see, I gave up on using the transmission jack because it just kept getting in the way and made it more difficult to remove the transmission. Okay, the transmission has been removed. It was a bit trickier than I anticipated because it was just hard to get around the sway bar end link here. I probably should have just undone that. And then of course, just having to maneuver around all these hoses and everything over to the left side here, the front. But yeah, so that's the pressure plate you see there. So I'll be removing all that stuff. So here's the pressure plate, and it's really hard to tell, but if I zoom in, it's got a bit of kind of grooves in it a little bit, very fine grooves, but not to mention, looks like some hot spots right here. And if I look at the flywheel here, again, we have those sort of hot spots along the whole thing of the dual mass flywheel and the clutch. It's looking a little close for wear. My dreams of just taking off the transmission and then replacing the rear main seal have just shattered. I now have to replace not only the rear main seal, but also the clutch and flywheel because those are not good and will not make it for the long run. So I think this is our culprit here for the leak, obviously, because I'm seeing oil still down here, but it doesn't look too bad, to be honest. It does seem to be wet here, but it's just kind of been sitting for a number of days now, so it's not as obvious. But yeah, I will be taking off all these T30s and then removing this old rear main seal and then installing the new one. Okay, with the old rear main seal removed, I have cleaned up everything, meaning I got rid of the old sealant that goes around it, and then now I'm ready to put on the new one. Now, fortunately with this, you'll know where to put it because it had a little indent here all around this seal housing. So after having removed the transmission a couple days ago, I finally got the new flywheel and clutch kit. So now I'm ready to install that and then hopefully get this transmission in by the end of the night. And there it is, that's a new dual mass flywheel. New flywheel's been installed. It looks good. It's been torqued down and turned an additional 90 degrees according to specs. So now it's time to get the new clutch disc and pressure plate on, and then we're ready to mount the transmission. Clutch disc and pressure plate are on and torqued, of course. I have my little marking up here where I put the alignment tool to hold the clutch in place. And then also I have the new slave cylinder in place and all torqued down. So now it's time to put the transmission in. You've joined me the following day and everything is back together here. The transmission's back in, as well as with the airbox and battery and all the other good stuff. So now it's the true test to see whether the transmission works like it should or whether I just messed it up really bad. Okay, let's start it up and see what happens. Okay, that's good so far. Okay, I'm in neutral here. Let's see if I have reverse gear. Okay, first. Well, the transmission seems to be working like it should, so that leads me to the end here, and I want to say thank you very much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to hit the thumbs up button, and also consider subscribing to the channel so that way you don't miss any videos like this, and also car reviews and projects on my channel. Until next time, take care. Bye now.